We should know something today. I mean, we're expecting a response from them. We'll see what the response entails. The hope is it's something that it can put us into a serious process of negotiation. Obviously, we've seen the reporting overnight that Iran has established or trying to establish some agency that's going to control traffic in the Straits. That would be very problematic. That would actually be unacceptable. But we're expecting a response from them today at some point. We have not received that yet, as you know, in the last hour, but perhaps that will come.
President Trump also issued this warning to Iran if they don't sign a peace deal.
The talks are going very well, but they have to understand if it doesn't get signed, they're going to have a lot of pain.
How close would you say that you are to a deal right now with Iran?
Could happen any day. Could, and it might not happen, but it could happen any day. I believe they want the deal more than I do.
You know, Guy, everything that is coming from the White House these days, and it's important, I think, a note, is expressed that there could be an Iran deal, and then there's always this kind of tepid note at the end, you know, if they step up to the table, if they follow through. And you get the sense that there is this realization that we are not dealing with a rational actor here, and we all wait to see if this is, in fact, the moment you get the deal. But I think the tepid tone is merited.
Yeah, and we've never been dealing with a rational actor in the Iranian regime. And despite the decapitation of the top of the regime, next man up level has been seemingly equally intractable and deranged. I mean, it's sort of confusing, I think, for a lot of Americans to see not just the blockade continuing, but earlier the United States, this was yesterday, quote, responded with self-defense strikes against Iranian targets after they attacked our ships. So technically they're calling this the ceasefire still underway, but it doesn't really feel that way. And unless this regime out of nowhere decides, OK, we will agree to all of these crucial demands from the United States, I would not be surprised if we see a reignition of Operation Epic Fury, at least on some level here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And Harris, one thing that's increasingly clear, and really from the very beginning, is Iran, I guess, is not interested in self-preservation because they've stared down the greatest hegemonic power in the world, the United States, and yet they're still trying to break through a blockade after they've lost their Ayatollah, their Navy, so on and so forth.
What's brilliant about what you just said, though, no, they don't have any kind of fear around losing all of their people because it's not about them. It's about the IRGC. It's about the military. It's about this sort of dedication, sick obsession, if you will, to rule just completely through radical Islam. I mean, and if you're Islam in that country, if you're Muslim in that country, and there are many other religions in that country of Iran, beautiful nation of 93 million people, that isn't you necessarily, but there are about 1 million or so of those people who are there to kind of keep that propped up too, in addition to the IRGC, which is why it makes it so complicated. I like everybody else, I wonder, who the heck are we dealing with? Like, who's actually at the table? Are they the same group every time we go? Is it who Vice President J.D. Vance saw? Was that a different group than we're dealing with now? It's all over the road, but it's very dangerous right now because we are trying to hold a position of defense, only hit them. Our rule of engagement is only hit them when they hit us. But their neighbors are getting hit. And the Abraham Accords, that's what I'm really worried about now. Our friends in that region that they are hitting now. And the UAE and Saudi Arabia and those neighbors having to say just a couple of days ago, look, we're going to choke off the airspace to the United States, because what they are doing is actually a violation of the ceasefire to them. Then the president smooths that out. There's only so much of that capital that we're going to have. We need them. And General King, Lieutenant General Kellogg, they're right. Carg Island, 90% of their income. You take that, you choke everything off economically, and then perhaps also give the people a better chance for a revolution. Mind you, they don't have any weapons, but they will outnumber everybody on the ground. And so how long does that take? I don't know. I think you have to do what Guy said. You got to step in now. Why wait? You know what they're going to do.
I think that's an important point you make, too, about the UAE. I mean, it was the attempt to go through the blockade, Emily. And then with the UAE, you saw the 15 ballistic and cruise missiles at one of the UAE's ports. And that's been one of the standout features from the very beginning. You had many of the Gulf states standing down and not saying, we're with the U.S. In fact, we don't condone this. And yet Iran attacks them.
Yeah, and also coinciding with their independent decision to leave OPEC, right? So there's a restructuring happened where every nation state is essentially protecting themselves, persevering, while also strengthening the alliances with us, to your point. Yeah. Keep in mind, too, there's a big clock in the sky for Iran, not for a proverbial sense in sort of the obvious realm, but also for the oil storage. And so they are abutting a serious parameter here that they only have so much time for. We can go all day. We can go all week, we can go all year, and then some. And I think this entire time we've seen the braid between the military might of the United States, the leverage diplomatically in negotiations, the pressure from the Gulf Arab states there, obviously the reaction from NATO, but I think that that trifecta approach, that's the pressure that they need. We've seen before what happens when we lift sanctions. There's no obedience here. There's no compliance. It's just a spinning out. So here, that's why I think we see the dance and the tango of using those two parameters. But I think the up-to-the-minute media coverage, frankly, does no one any favors. I think it feeds into the exhaustion of this. So it would do well to sort of take a beat and let it play out, because by the minute we're seeing them in their newly resurged weapons. Where are those from? Sort of acting out again. So I think while this dance is happening, it may look sort of ugly at times, but thank God for our allies and for the patience that the United States has in terms of that flexibility that Iran doesn't.
Yeah, and Rosanna, President Trump has said every step of the way, if we don't get this signed, they're going to have a lot of pain. But the question I have is if Iran even cares about that pain. I was talking to former Special Forces individual yesterday, great hero of our country, and he said to me, look, they're willing to sacrifice their own people. Right. That's who we're dealing with now. We've seen this time and time again. They don't care, and there is a question about whether they care about their own livelihood as well.
So, Kaylee, you're absolutely right. Yes. I have a friend who has family in Iran, and while they're very happy the president took this action, they're worried about their family in Iran, whether they're going to find the food to eat, whether they're going to survive these military attacks. They're very concerned. And Americans are concerned, too, because we don't want to see this escalate any further. This war has been, 2 months and a little, in a few days. And we're worried. We're worried because one minute the president says we got a deal. The next minute he says we got a deal in a day or so. And then he says, maybe we don't have a deal. So I'm with you, Emily, on maybe we don't need to know every detail right now. Just let us know that you're there. Your people are talking, that a deal is still possible. Because when we go to the supermarket, we see we're paying for it here. We're paying for it in eggs and bread, everything's going up. You go to the pump, and now is the time people start traveling in their cars. The gas prices are up every single day. We want to know that there's an end in sight and that we're going to be victorious.
The one thing I would say is that military and these families in the United States appreciate the minute by minute because we see this differently. And I do think that, back in the day, previous wars, like World War II especially, you had women in factories helping to make things with their pantyhose, and everybody was all in. We haven't really seen that sort of push and support for military life much since then. We've been at war in many places and haven't had what we would call true victories. We've had a lot of mission creep. So when we see this minute by minute and transparency, yes, it is wearing on the soul. But those millions of people whose loved ones are fighting so far away know that we are with them. And so I do see it a little bit differently. I can take the drip because I want them to come home.
Did you guys see that the New Jersey ferry system, which goes between New Jersey and New York, they just raised their prices sort of considerably. And they said that in the uncertain times of war, and it was interesting to me because we all know that when prices get raised, they never go back. And this is on the heels of, and this is a separate point than what you're making, this is on the heels of the World Cup coming. So everyone's raising their prices for transportation too. And I wondered as I read the alert, sort of, how much it was politically tainted and how much people are reading that and then being like, taking that negatively in how it was phrased in terms of the impact on the daily life and not listening to the president saying this is temporary. And it still is nowhere near what it was in the prior administrations. But yet there's a reflection and a reaction in this structural way that's giving people this pause.
Yeah, gas was $5 a gallon at the height of Joe Biden's presidency. And he wasn't waging a war to keep the world free of nuclear weapons, a problem we all acknowledge for 47 years until now because it's political and the left is losing their mind.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.